So our next storyteller, ready? Okay, is Paul Owino. He is also from Kenya, and his story is entitled "A Child's Job." Oh, come on.
When I was 5 years old, living with my grandmother Ellen in the remote village called Nyamboyo in Kenya, I remember one of these early mornings, she woke me up and she said, "Nyakwara, my grandson, you need to wake up because you need to go and look for water." It was very early in the morning, it was still dark. And at the same time, she could tell me that I need to prepare for you breakfast. And she was walking to the bush to collect firewood because we are living in a village where there was no electricity. So the only means for cooking was firewood. And at the same time, we went to the farm there to look for sweet potatoes. And she pointed to me, the women who are going down the village, that you need to follow those women because where they will get water, that is the same place you will also get water. I had to run very fast and catch up with them. Because the village had wildlife, I was scared of hyenas who were howling last night. I thought that maybe they will attack me. So I could follow the women going down the village. I could see jerrycan on their head. And with my jerrycan also I could follow them. We walked, and after 2 hours, I didn't know how long it took. I learned later that it took about 7 kilometers. When we arrived at River Nyekna, I did not know what to do because I could see women going down into the water, fighting, scrambling, pushing each other. With me, I was just by the river there. Some of them could shout at me that you need to wait for the older people to get water. Some will say, "Why are you here? You are just a boy, this is girls' work." I was wondering because my mother was not there, and my grandmother also was not there. So I was completely low because I found myself with strangers. So I waited up to the point because there were so many people in the river. So when all of them had collected water, I learned how they could take their jerrycan down the top, facing up and water flowing in. Because I didn't ask, I could just learn by seeing what they are doing. When they finished, they started walking back home. That's the time I got into the water. I was so afraid because that water had even some snakes and also some kind of reptiles. So I had to do it very fast and come out of that water. I realized the jerrycan was too heavy because I was only 5 years old. I could not walk fast back home, so I could carry it on my head, at times on my left side, at times on my right side. At times I couldn't stop. It took me 4 hours to reach home. Arriving home, I was told this is the work I was going to do the rest of my life. I was wondering how will I do this work, and also I need to go to school. But that's how it turned. I remember there's a time it was raining heavily in the village, and I thought that if I could go out and make a hole on the ground, water could be collected there next to the home. Then I would not need to go back to the river again. But that one lasted only for a few days during the rainy season. I had to go back and do this job of fetching water. I didn't know that there are some people who are living in a place where they have water at their doorstep, because no one had told me that. I knew that was the only thing in life I was going to do. At the age of 10, I had to leave the village and go to a bigger city called Nairobi and live in a slum area called Kibera, which is the largest slum in East and Central Africa. I was going to search for my parents so that I may join them. but I didn't know I was going to another mess. When I arrived at the slum, I found it is crowded with people, a lot of noise, there are criminals, and the major problem was unsafe water. And here even people were selling it. You have to walk many miles away to look for it, and you have to buy it. And again, not safe for drinking. We were sick, my family, everyone was sick. I got sick of diarrhea, I got sick of typhoid. I could not go to school. My aunt was looking for this water. Then I had to go back to the village again, where my grandmother was, so that I could go back to school. But to my surprise, my grandmother could not take me to school because she could not pay school fee. So I lived some years. Then I had to go back to the slum at the age of 12. I stayed in the slum. There I continued to look for water every morning. When I reached the age of 16, some missionaries came from North America, Illinois, and they were in Nairobi, Kibera's land. That's the time they took me to a Catholic boarding school. When I arrived at the school, things were completely different, because at the school there was a running tap. I did not imagine what was it, because I could see some other children and students going around there. So I had to walk slowly to go and check what are they really doing. Then I saw someone turned it on and water was flowing from the tap. Then I realized that the tap at the age of 16. My life started changing. Now I could study mathematics, I could study English, I could study other things. And I had now hope that my life is going to change to be a better person. It was not just going to collect water. As I continued that way, a tragedy struck when I was at the age of 17 in school. I had a call. Someone came by the school and told me my grandmother has died. She died of waterborne disease because she could not treat it, and also she could not even prevent it. So she went to the clinic, she didn't have medicine, and she finally died. That's the time I started thinking how my life was going to be, because my grandmother meant a lot in my life. And I started thinking, can I work hard so that out of school I can go back and help people? I started thinking of being a health worker, and also someone can go and teach people about waterborne diseases to save lives. That's what I've done. And currently I'm married with 3 girls. I'm now teaching them to be responsible so that they don't get waterborne diseases, and also they can help also other people who have not known this. And one more thing which I'm doing, again, now I'm working with WaterStep, advocating for safe water for communities back in my country, Kenya. What I know in this life, when people are given opportunity to get safe water right from birth, they will be very important people, and they can change to develop to very useful human beings. Not like my case when I got safe water when I was at the age of 16. It reminds me of that very, very time that there are many people out there. There are many children now who are still suffering the way I suffered. And if we can work together, we can bring safe water and help those other children, like my case, when I was at the age of 5, have safe drinking water at their homes. Thank you.